Giorgia Meloni.
It is no coincidence that Hamas took advantage of the weakening of this architecture to launch on October 7th, 2023, its attack against Israel. The ferocity and brutality of that attack, the hunt for unarmed civilians, prompted Israel to a reaction that was at first legitimate, because every state and every people has the right to defend itself. But the response to aggression must always respect the principle of proportionality. This applies to individuals and all the more so to states. And Israel has exceeded that limit with a large-scale war disproportionately involving the Palestinian civilian population. And it is in crossing this limit that the Jewish state has ended up violating humanitarian norms, causing a massacre among civilians. This choice, which Italy has repeatedly deemed unacceptable, will lead us to vote in favor of some of the sanctions proposed by the European Commission against Israel. But we do not side with those who heap all the blame for what is happening in Gaza on Israel, because it was Hamas that unleashed the war. It is Hamas that could end the suffering of Palestinians by immediately releasing all the hostages. It is Hamas that seems intent on thriving on the suffering of the people it claims to represent. Israel must free itself from the trap of this war. It must do so for the history of the Jewish people, for its democracy, for the innocent, and for the universal values of the free world of which it is part. And to end the war, concrete solutions are needed. Peace is not built only with appeals or with ideological proclamations embraced with enthusiasm by those who in truth do not want peace. Peace is built with patience, with courage, with reasonableness. The children of Gaza, like those Italy is proudly receiving and treating in its hospitals, are asking for answers that can improve their condition. And to that we are committed. Italy is and will be there for anyone willing to work on a serious plan for the release of hostages, a permanent ceasefire, the exclusion of Hamas from any governance dynamic in Palestine, the gradual withdrawal of Israel from Gaza, and the involvement of the international community in managing the subsequent phase of the ceasefire, leading to the realization of the two-state perspective. In this regard, we consider very interesting the proposals that the President of the United States has discussed recently with Arab countries, and we are ready to lend a hand. We believe that Israel has no right to prevent the future creation of a Palestinian state, nor to build new settlements in the West Bank to that end. For this reason, we have signed the New York Declaration on the two-state solution. This is Italy's historic position on the Palestinian question, and it has never changed. At the same time, we believe that the recognition of Palestine must have two indispensable preconditions: the release of all Israeli hostages and Hamas's renunciation of any role in the government of Palestine. For those who unleash the conflict cannot be rewarded. And thus we return to the starting point, the rules, the force of law. In Ukraine, in the Middle East, in every scenario where war dominates and reason seems lost. There's no escaping, colleagues, the most important question, which is the reason we're all here together today, is the United Nations architecture we built 80 years ago up to task in the face of the challenges we are facing today? It is not. And multilateralism, dialogue, and diplomacy without institutions that function as they should are only empty words. We must recognize our limits. We must recognize that a profound reform of the United Nations is necessary and urgent, not an ideological reform, but a pragmatic, realistic one that respects the sovereignty of nations and opens to shared solutions. We need an agile, efficient institution able to respond quickly to crises, transparent in its mission and costs, capable of minimizing bureaucracy, waste, duplications. What we call the glass palace must be truly a house of glass. The reform Italy has in mind, starting with the Security Council, must respect the principles of equality, democracy, representativeness, and accountability. We do not need new hierarchies nor new permanent seats, simply because they would not solve the decision-making paralysis that has undermined the credibility of this institution. We are open to discussing reform without any prejudice, including on the basis of proposals already advanced by the Uniting for Consensus group. But we want a reform that serves to represent everyone better, not to give more representation to just a few. But to be effective, it is not only institutions we must reform, because we're facing a change of era. And this requires a profound revision of all the tools we have to regulate relations among nations and defend the rights of people, including international conventions. I'm thinking, for example, of conventions regulating migration and asylum. These are rules enshrined in an era when mass irregular immigration did not exist, nor did human trafficking. Conventions that are no longer current and which, when interpreted ideologically and one-sidedly by politicized judiciaries, they end up trampling on the law instead of upholding it. Its aftershocks were underestimated, and today we face unexpected consequences, which were not truly unexpected, grave in their impact on citizens, families, and businesses. Things have not gone well, contrary to promises made. And let me give you some more news. Things could get much worse if we do not halt the artificial creation of unsustainable production models, such as the green plans that in Europe and across the West are leading to deindustrialization far sooner than decarbonization. The conversion of entire production sectors on the basis of theories that ignore the needs and the economic capacities of people has been a colossal mistake, causing suffering among the most vulnerable social classes and dragging the middle class downward, imposing irrational consumption choices. Unsustainable environmentalism has nearly destroyed the automobile sector in Europe, created problems in the United States, caused job losses, burdened competitiveness, and depleted knowledge. And most paradoxically, it has not improved the overall health of our planet. This is not, of course, about denying climate change, but about affirming reason, which above all means technological neutrality and gradual reforms instead of ideological extremism, respecting the environment while keeping humanity at the center. Because it took centuries to build our systems, but only a few decades to end up in an industrial desert. And as I said many times before, in the desert, there's nothing green. Colleagues, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, this year, we're not only celebrating the 80th anniversary of the birth of this assembly, but also the 70th anniversary of Italy's membership in the United Nations, a double anniversary that places on us an even greater responsibility to uphold the founding principles and values of this organization. With the awareness that to do so, we must make the tools effective to defend those principles and values of our time, so that our action may be more incisive and truly responsive to the needs of our societies. The choice that we have is simple. Either leave everything as it is, or take refuge in what is easy, or show our citizens that we will not waste the historic opportunity which this time, with its multiple challenges, has handed us to build a fairer and safer world. Because as St. Francis, the most Italian of saints, who gave his name to the city where this organization was born, said, "Difficult battles are reserved only for those who have exemplary courage." It is time, I believe, to show that courage. Thank you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Italy,